There's a trend on TikTok where older women are trying to convince younger women that, and I guess they're trying to convince men that the men who are incarcerated are competing with and beating men who are not incarcerated for the attention and affection of women who are in the free world. This is just a carryover from a 1990s trend that I recall, where women would say, I want a bad boy, I want a thug in my life. And for the most part, it's just a carryover from, the old saying that women like bad boys. Now, back in the 1920s and 30s, women could have done that and got away with it. It was more of a open landscape. You didn't have the law enforcement that you have now. Back then, the type of criminal activity that was committed may or may not land you in court or prison. I mean, it's just so wide open. Nevertheless, there was still drawbacks associated with dating someone who was a quote-unquote bad boy back then. But now, moving forward and skipping ahead or returning to the 1990s, because of the different tough on crime bills, the crack bill, the 1994 crime bill signed into law by Bill Clinton, there's been a serious increase in incarceration. Black men specifically in the 1970s, I believe we composed approximately 11% of the total incarceration population, and by 2006 it was up to about 37%, more or less. Invariably, when you have that number of men incarcerated at the same time, considering this different backgrounds and lifestyle changes, and also considering that the duration of time that these men would be incarcerated, you're going to have men with alternative lifestyles, whether they are, as they say, gay for the stay, or whether or not that is an active choice that they made in the free world. They are going to partake in the activities in those different correctional facilities. And the way things are set up, when you have the, we'll say the receivers and the pitchers, there's a small number of pitchers, relatively speaking. There's a small number of men, relatively speaking, in those penitentiaries that are willing to actively participate and be the receiver. On the other hand, there are a lot of men who consider themselves not gay, even though they participate in those sort of activities while they're there. And those men, for the most part, look for those other men in those institutions that would be considered, jailhouse sissies, if you will. And so because of that, a lot of men end up having sexual intercourse anally with a lot of men who are incarcerated. Most of us who are involved in law enforcement, whether you be an attorney, a lawyer, a judge, police officers, because we've interacted with criminals and representing them and processing them for the cops, we know what goes on in those penitentiaries. A lot of these men return to the community and they will say, hey, I'm not gay. And in their hearts, they really mean it, but that doesn't mean they didn't participate in sexual activity with other men in the penitentiary. And normally usually that would be, anal penetration. Now, because of the way the human body is designed, that sort of activity creates a lot of fluid, and whatever your lifestyle choices are, that's what you choose. I know people have their religious beliefs, but in the United States, under the law of the United States Constitution, and these people have a right to privacy, and they have a right to do that and participate in whatever lifestyle. The sodomy laws have been outlawed. They've been deemed unconstitutional, so people have a right to participate in that. The problem is this: even though it's not illegal, there is still an effect associated with that. When these men, after doing these long terms in prison, are reintroduced into the population, oftentimes they do not disclose to the women who they either return home to, or the women that they then seek out upon return, that they have participated in those homosexual activities in the penitentiary, those high-risk homosexual activities. And I say all that to say there's been an increase in HIV amongst Black American women. Now, it's my understanding there's been about and I'm going from some statistics that are from about 2018, but there are lots of organizations that have been following this trend. But for the most part, you're looking at about 14,000 new cases in 2018, of which about 2,000 can be attributed to heterosexual Black men. Actually, the number is about 1,700, about 4,100 for Black women, and the rest, which is about 9,300 of these HIV cases, new HIV cases, are attributable to Black men who are homosexual. A lot of that who participated in homosexual activities, and a lot of that is because those men have been incarcerated. And so when I hear trends like girl on TikTok saying, girl, yeah, you need to get a thug in your life. You need a man who's in the penitentiary. They make love to you better. It's asinine. It's absurd that we would not, knowing that is a cultural death knell, knowing that sort of fad, if you will, that sort of trend is what is leading to the disproportionate increase in HIV amongst Black American women. And for older women to irresponsibly enter onto social media and spread that nonsense, to spread that tragic way of perceiving the world and perceiving men, is reckless. Now, the greater point is this, and what this dictates, well, what this tells us is something that we know to be true, that the vast majority of women in America, and specifically Black American women, are having sexual intercourse with the same group of men. Now, again, everybody wants to blame Black men in general for what Black women are doing with a specific group of Black men. When you want to talk about the out-of-wedlock birth rate, the fact that 51% of Black men don't have children and aren't married, there's another 31% of Black men who are married and are living with their wives. The question then becomes, well, how did 70 to 80% of Black American women become impregnated? Now, there's a small percentage of men who may have had children before they got married, but for the most part, that's minimized. That's what marriage does. It forces you to limit your sexual partners. You know, you take an oath. But the bottom line is the vast majority of these women are impregnated by that same 18 to 20% of men. And it's that same small percentage of men that women choose who are also infecting them with HIV, because these men, not only do they have high sexual partners, but many Black American women choose thugs, they choose criminals, they choose men who've been in and out the penitentiary. And I'm not just talking about some guy who talks tough. I'm talking about a man who has served a considerable amount of time in one of these penal criminal institutions, and because of that, they've partaked in homosexual activities. Condoms are, for the most part, contraband in these penitentiaries. And at that point where you're in there, it's part of the culture, and men participate. I don't care how much they deny it. I don't care how much they say they didn't do it. For the most part, you're dealing with a person who is trying to protect their reputation and name. But the proof is evident in the increased rate of sexually transmitted diseases, specifically HIV, in the black community. But for the incarceration rate, black Americans, black men in specific, have the highest rate of condom use. We don't necessarily practice these unsafe sexual acts. In addition to that, we have a very low infection rate through drug use. And so what that lets you know is being passed from men to men via anal sex, and it's being passed from men to women via vaginal penis or vaginal sex. And then those women pass it off to heterosexual men. And it's difficult, not impossible, but it's more difficult for a man to contract HIV from a woman having vaginal sex with her than it is for a man to contract HIV from having anal sex. These are the statistics. But the thing is, ladies, and I want you ladies to listen to this, black men can't tell you anything. There's nothing we can tell you. We've been telling you for years, stop messing with these thugs. You're dealing with the same type of dudes as Pookie and Ray Ray do. There's no good. And you still want to deal with it. And then, as opposed to accepting the fact that you made a mistake and it was your fault for either having this baby or contracting this disease, now you want to blame all black men. There's a reason why you have so many bitter black women out there. Between the STDs and the babies that aren't being taken care of by this small group of men that you decide to lay down with and allow you to impregnate you, that's why you're upset. The vast majority of black men, and I'm talking 80%, had absolutely nothing to do with your decision to go bang Pookie or Ray Ray or both straight out of, as soon as they got out of the penitentiary. But because we can't tell you anything and you won't accept fault, guess what? You're not going to change. The only way that a person will begin to change is if they begin to accept responsibility for their actions. As long as they can foist blame on someone else, they're not going to accept responsibility for their actions. As long as they have congressmen and actors and politicians allowing them to blame someone else for their own personal actions and decisions, which lead to consequences that they don't that they don't like, they'll never accept responsibility. They will never, just like a child. The reason you force a child to confess, the reason you force a child to accept responsibility is so that they can grow, and that they can grow and they can know better. But now you got women on TikTok telling another group of young women, go get a thug in your life. We're still dealing with the ramifications of the 1990s thugs that women decided, in the early 2000 thugs that women decided to be with. The out of wedlock birth rate is astronomical. The STI rate is astronomical. The HIV rate is on the rise. But you can't tell them anything. Accountability. Accountability is like kryptonite to women. And it's like double kryptonite to black women because they're able to blame black men for all their problems. And so we can't grow together. Whereas black men have been held responsible for any and everything that's going on in the United States. And so because of that, we've learned to accept responsibility. At this point, black men have moved into the middle class to the tune of 60 some odd % of us become or reach the middle class by middle age. The poverty rate of the 1960s has been flipped, where before there was 60% of black men in poverty, 6% of black families in poverty. Now you have only about 20% of black men in poverty, 20% of black people in poverty. And most of those are elderly and students. So they still have the opportunity to make it. So black men, because we've been blamed for everything, because we've been forced to take accountability for so much, even things that we didn't do or didn't cause, we've done better. And now brothers are looking around saying, look, we get it, we're at fault for some of this, but these children that are being birthed out of wedlock aren't our issue. If you look at the 8 million children born to black women in the past 10, 15 years, 1.5 million of them, that's 1,500,000 of those children, were fathered by men who aren't black. What that means is black American women have been going out of the community and doing the same thing that they've been doing in the community. And that's having sex with non-black men and then bringing them back to the community. And guess who gets held responsible for those children? The reason nobody looks and parses out the out of wedlock birth rate amongst black women and says, oh, well, hold on a minute. Clearly that child is from a white man or Hispanic man or Asian man, so we can't hold black men responsible for that. Oh no, the entire issue has to do with black men. That's it, the entire issue. And then you got to look at the fact that you got black women who are sleeping with these thugs. You know why your son doesn't have a father? Because his father's in jail. His father got out of prison, had a relationship with the mother, however brief, and then went back to prison. That's why your son is fatherless. That's why your daughter is fatherless. That's why you're forced to raise your children by yourself. That's why you're out here looking for a stepdaddy. You want somebody to step up because your man has been locked down. That's why. You want a stepfather to step up because the child's father has been locked down. And you knew it. You knew you were dealing with a career criminal at the point you met him. It turned you on. It got your juices going. All that's in your head. But what's not in your head is that child. Now that child is on your heart. And it becomes, and it's on our wallet as far as the rest of black America. And it's on our reputation as far as black men are concerned. But the proof is out there now, ladies. What everybody has been telling you is true. It's not us, it's you. You're the problem. And in any society where the sexuality of women is not held in check, they will outbreed the resources, and that uncontrolled reproduction is going to undermine the society. These children who are running around in the community with no discipline and no father figures and it has destroyed the black community. And now, because of women's choices in the black community, because you can't tell them anything, I'm a boss, who gonna check me, boo? Now you're in a situation where you're allowing it to destroy your bodies. And nobody can tell you anything. So, accountability, ladies, accountability. And fellas, I don't know what do you do about it? You try to tell them, hey, leave these low-life criminals alone. Leave these Pookie and Ray Rays alone. It is so crazy that in the black community, the Pookie and Ray Ray oftentimes carries more weight and status than the upstanding black man who is a hardworking plumber or an electrician or a truck driver. The scammer is the one the women want. They don't want a dentist. They don't want a medical doctor. They want a drug dealer or a street hustler. They will tell you, look online at black women who want scammers. They'll tell you, I want a scammer. They'll tell you, drug dealers have better sex. They'll tell you, yeah, I want a gangster. Hell with having a cop as a boyfriend or a husband. I want a criminal. Think about that upside down backwards way of thinking. You want a ticking time bomb of a relationship where at any time some men with badges can kick in the front door, snatch that man who is oftentimes the center of your financial stability out of your life, leave you with children to raise on your own for the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. That's what you want. That's what you want because of a feeling, an artificial feeling. There's a reason they don't make Band-Aids for feelings, because they don't exist. It's all in your head. Because you feel like this man makes better sex with you or has better, greater sexual prowess, you're more attracted to him. Nevertheless, when it all goes to hell in a handbasket and you don't have anyone to help raise your children because your man is locked down and he's calling every 2 or 3 weeks to try to get you to put some money, send some money to him in Western Union while he's in the penitentiary. Now you don't feel that way. Now you feel as though you're a victim. And because no one will force you to take blame for your actions, you'll never change. So that's why you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kids by 3 or 4 different low-life dudes. Now, whose fault is that? You can't blame society for your personal actions. You can't blame all black men because you decided to get with the 18 or 20% of black men who are shiftless, no good losers. You can't blame all black men, all 25 million or 22 million black men, because you decided to have sex with the 1,600 black men who are 1.6 black million, 1.6 million black men who are in and out the penitentiary. That's not our fault. That's your own damn fault. That's your own poor decision making. That's your own lack of impulse control. That's your own lack of logic. That's your own lack of ability, a lack of willingness to learn from your first mistakes or learn from the mistakes of others. Where's the accountability? You want to get on the internet, you want to get on TV, you want to complain about there being no good black men, which is a lie. It's just you're choosing the no good black men. How difficult must it be to have 22 million black men out there? And of that 22 million black men, you look and you search for the 1 million black men who have to first get out of the penitentiary. You hunt them down, have sex with them, get pregnant by them, and then hold the baby to term. If somebody put 22 marbles in different hiding places around 22 places, you'd have to go find those. You'd have to find that one marble in that hidden spot. You got a big open field like this one behind me, right? All the billions of different spots. You put 22 marbles out there, you got to go find one. That one marble that's no good. That's what you ladies have done. I hate to say it, but you earned it. You earned this Darwin Award. You ladies who have reproduced with men who you knew were not going to be there, you earned that Darwin Award. Your children are destroying themselves in the streets, and they're taking a bit of our own children with it. Nobody's obligated to help you raise your children. You're not owed anything. At this point, nobody wants to help you raise your children because the jig is up. We realize what you've done. You've created a mess, a toxic, sulfuric cascade of putrid funk that the whole community has to smell. And now you want somebody else to put their hazmat suit on and come in there and clean up your household. And now we got cycle after generation after generation of baby mama-ism impacted to the point that you got a bunch of men who don't even see a male role model until they get to college or the penitentiary, if they're lucky. They don't even know how men are supposed to behave, how they're supposed to react, because there is a dearth of men in the black community, to the point that there is no black community, just a bunch of women and kids, and Pookie and Ray Ray sleeping on the couch, hobosexuals as they call them. And you want black men to give up our status, give up our lives that we earn, come back to the community and help you raise them. You and your STI infected selves. You want us to take you after Pookie and Ray Ray has run you through the mud and the toxic waste and whatever diseases you have and all these kids and all these mental issues, and take you back. Because see, everybody always says, well, you know, you should marry one of these baby mamas over here. You don't know what kind of STI she has. You don't know what type of mental issues she has from associated with these kids. You don't know what sort of genetics the children have. Your daddy was a thug, your granddaddy was a thug, and your baby daddy is a thug. You got impacted thugism run down into that DNA. All that trauma, all that generational trauma. And you want decent, hardworking black men to just accept that, move in and clean it up. If you can spell say And if you can't spell say now. Let me get that again. Now. And hell no. You won't even accept accountability, so you can't grow. You can't grow because unless you accept the accountability for your mistakes, you're not going to change. There's nothing wrong. That's why you're dying. That's why the black community is dead. Shout out to the Passport Bros. Shout out to all the other brothers out there doing well. To you black women out there who care, you need to talk to black women. And you need to shut down this toxicity. Stop telling these young girls to get thugs. Stop telling these young girls to pursue men who they deem to be bad boys. Because all you get from a bad boy is a bad outcome, ladies. That's all that's going to happen. And now at this point, it's not the 1920s and 30s. It's not the 1840s. It's you're looking at death. You're looking at poverty. You're looking at hospitalization. You're looking at HIV. You're looking at STIs. You're looking at your child entering into that same cycle that you see so many other women have perished from. And there's nobody there that's coming to save you.